halls of West Virginia resound with the sound of Golden Blue football.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
Now let's bring on the Mountaineers. Goes around about the 15 to 10 to 5. A touchdown with Virginia. He did it.
He did it. Patrick White. Touchdown, Tay Von Austin.
But Don Nehlen's Mountaineers enjoy walking in where angels feared to tread.
I think you think that these guys are going to fall over dead for you. Well, I got news for you. They're going to punch you right in the mouth. It's Mountaineer pride.
Nothing cheap, nothing dirty, but West Virginia football. West Virginia football.
We've no doubt tonight they shouldn't have played the old Golden Blue. Not this night.
They've done it. They've done it. A perfect season. And the Mountaineers, for the first time in history, undefeated and untied.
Don Nehlen and his Mountaineers, for the second time, have finished a regular season with an unblemished mark.
Ain't no stopping the Golden Blue.
And now recorded from the CRW studios in Almost Heaven, West Virginia, it's the Country Roads webcast with your host, Jorden Cruz.
What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into episode 219 of the CRW podcast here in Season 7 as we get set to discuss multiple news topics across both sports. We've got basketball news to cover. We've got football news to talk about. It's Spring Showcase Week. That has arrived, and also so is Coach Ross Hodge officially in Morgantown. Got the introductory press conference coming up in short order. We're going to be releasing this late Wednesday. His press conference is coming up on Thursday, so we'll talk a bit about Coach Hodge, some of the basketball news, transfer portal updates on that side of things. We'll do the same for the football side as Spring Showcase approaches, just a couple of days away now. And, of course, joining me to help do all of that is my great co-host. We got Steven.
What's going on, everybody?
So, Steven, man, I think it's the first time we've had a chance to really get together and record a podcast since, the last one was really kind of initially when the Darren DeVries news broke that he was heading to Indiana. Haven't had a chance to get together kind of since then. And since that happened, it's kind of been a lot more that we've learned about that situation in regards to not only him taking that job, which was probably a gut punch in and of itself enough, but the fact of the way that he left, I think that's one thing I want to get your thoughts on was kind of his departure. Not only, it's bad enough that he doesn't leave, a goodbye message to the fan base. A lot of coaches tend to do that, including our new coach, Ross Hodge, just did that for his North Texas team after they lost in the NIT. Multiple coaches do that, but I think the worst part of it that's come out is he didn't even notify any of the players, none of the assistant coaches, just kind of left in the middle of the night. And even once the Big 12 tournament was over, the team headed back, and he stayed there at the site of the Big 12 tournament by himself. So that probably showed you the writing on the wall right there. But just kind of before we talk a little bit about the new coach, Ross Hodge, and get your thoughts on him, what are your thoughts on, not necessarily just the Darren DeVries departure, but more so kind of the way that he went about it?
I don't respect the way that he went about it at all. I even said that immediately. My immediate reaction, I think, was on this show. Mm-hmm. The last time we did this show. So I don't know. I still just don't understand how you do that to a team. I mean, it's not like it was bad blood. Right. I mean, it seemed like everybody, all parties involved, at least on West Virginia side, was at least respectful. So I don't know. There's just still a lot of question marks. There's been a lot of animosity towards different directions in this fan base because of this. It's like a domino effect, and it only causes negativity between people in the fan base, especially because you got to go through this whole coaching cycle again, and then there's diversity on who people want to be the coach versus this guy being the coach, and just a multitude of things. So I don't know. I hate these types of deals, and I don't know. There's differences in the way that he went about it versus other coaches that have left programs in the past. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can respect about how he did it. I mean, how do you For so many reasons. It's your first coaching gig. We gave you the opportunity to coach at this level of college basketball. You know what I mean? I know that he had other offers, but I'm saying like West Virginia gave you that opportunity and that platform to be able to get this job that you so long for, you say, and you don't have any kind of let alone the fan base. I can give a shit less about us, but when you talk about the players not being, you know what I mean? That's
the worst part.
I don't know. I
mean,
feel bad for guys like Javon that
exactly. That's what I was going to say.
I don't know, poured their whole heart and soul into this season, and I mean, like Javon has been good at basketball, but he took on a whole new role this year. It felt like, and had to do it dynamically throughout the season. And then I don't know, it just doesn't do what his college career coming to an end. It doesn't really do it justice. So hopefully he gets in a good place in the NBA at the next level and can, continue building on top of a really good basketball career. And other players as well, but that's just the most obvious.
So. Yeah, for sure. Because, he, put the team on his back at times, blood, sweat, and tears this year, for sure. Did all that he could. And certainly, I think we all agree, did enough to get West Virginia NCAA tournament. We won't lament on that too much. We talked about that on the last show, that kind of snub. But, just kind of Darren DeVries twisting the knife, so to speak, after that just made it hurt that much worse. And, say what you will about him not leaving a message to us as the fans, but definitely the way that he handled it with the team and, of course, with his assistant coaches, I think speaks a lot about, his character in hindsight. Kind of hit us with a little bit of a bait and switch, I guess you could say, because when he came in, one thing that we thought was, oh, man, this is a guy that's so loyal. Look how long he was at Creighton. Look how long he was at Drake. He's probably going to be here for a while. And I think, just the more you see, it seems like a guy that didn't even really want to be here at times. He didn't have much personality. You never saw the guy smile. And then they put out videos of him going to Indiana and this guy smiling ear to ear and stuff. So I don't know. It's just, not set
but it's
right.
It's also, you know what I mean? Like you see him on the sideline at games. He'd be getting pumped up, trying to get his guys back into it, trying to get us back into it. So, it's easy in hindsight to view things like that, you know what I mean? And you're right. There's a lot of times where he didn't look like he was happy to be here, but there was also a lot of times that I noticed that he did seem like he liked being here and that he felt like this was the program that we all thought it was instead of now how he talks about it.
He doesn't. He won't even mention. I don't know if you
right,
saw
but I'm saying
that video where he was doing an interview and he talked about Creighton and he talked about Drake, but then when it came to talking about WVU, he said my previous school or whatever it was. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he wouldn't even mention WVU by name. And I'm like, that's even twists the knife even further, more salt in the wound.
There's got to be more. There's got to be more.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something, some more to that story. We'll probably never know the full story, unless maybe DeVries writes a book someday or something, which I don't know if I don't want to give him any money, so I don't know if I'd purchase it. I'd just, check out the Cliff Notes or something, I guess. But I don't know. Just to me, I think in hindsight, you really learn a lot about a person's character through things like that. And the silver lining, I guess, in my opinion, is this is a guy that's supposed to be, leading and molding young men. And, really, if that's the type of person that he actually is, what he's kind of proven to be in hindsight, the way that he was, snaking the grass, and of course there's conspiracy theories about how long this was in the works, how long Indiana was, going after him. And despite, whether that was in the Big 12 tournament, whether that was way earlier in the season, either way he went about it, he certainly kept it under wraps and then just went out the door overnight, essentially. And then, of course, the way that you handle it there at the end, no goodbye message to us, not telling your players, says a lot about your character. And someone with that type of character is probably not anyone that you want, molding young men at your university. So I guess in that aspect, despite the fact of him being a good basketball coach, we dodged a bullet character-wise would be one of the best ways I would sum it up, probably.
Yeah. In hindsight, you're probably right. I think that it worked out for the best. Still trust in Rim Baker, so I hope that Ross Hodge is the guy. I really do. I really, truly do.
Yeah.
I think he's a good fit. Things said about him, so.
Yeah, for sure. One of the other candidates that was up, for the job at some point, or we were all kind of hoping for, was Ben McCollum. He was a hot name in college basketball, and the one thing I'll say about Ben McCollum is once he got that Iowa job, I said go be great, but most importantly, beat Indiana. I think when Iowa plays Indiana, we'll all be in Iowa's corner for that one for sure, because I think I saw someone else tweet, I've got two favorite teams now. It's WVU and whoever's playing Indiana. Sour grapes, you can call it that if you want, but hey, man, it's when things are handled that way, it hurts, and it's going to be something that hurts for a while, and people are going to hold a grudge about.
Yeah. I'm going to laugh like hell if he goes over there and he's not successful at all and continues the mediocrity that has been in Indiana basketball for the last 2 decades.
Well, he's got a lot of work to do. I mean, they had essentially nobody left on the roster, so it's just him and Tucker right now, I believe, and but also
that's also what it was when he got here last year, though, too. So.
True. But the thing is, he doesn't have Chester Frazier to help him recruit because, by all reports lately, that's who really helped build a lot of that roster and recruit a lot of those guys that we brought in. And I think that says something, too, the fact that essentially, none of those guys wanted to go to Indiana with him. I mean, Chester Frazier, somebody put out on social media, are you going to Indiana? And his response was like, no way, you know me better than that, or something like that. So obviously he rubbed them the wrong way as well. And, you don't want to make enemies in the coaching profession, much less, us as a fan base. But that's a whole nother discussion that really goes into that. But enough with the negative Darren DeVries stuff. Let's talk about a little bit more positive. Let's shift gears. Let's talk about the direction that the search went to. Ultimately, there was a ton of different things that we cycled through there. Ben McCollum, Nico Medved, of course, both those guys went to their home state. Then you had, Richard Pitino talk. You had Jared Calhoun talk. You had Steve Forbes talk. And all along, Ross Hodge was certainly one that was in the conversation. He was one that we talked about, when we talked about Darren DeVries leaving as someone being a potential candidate because of his relationship with Ren Baker. So, before we talk kind of more about Ross Hodge in general, just kind of your thoughts on the way the search played out. Was he a guy that was near the top of your list, or was he, someone else that you kind of thought was a little bit further down and you had another preference? Because I know that's kind of been a hot debate now that Ross Hodge has been hired, is some people questioning the hire. I know personally, I'll come out and say, before you go, I'll let you have the floor, but I really didn't want Jared Calhoun. I was in the camp that was kind of anybody but Calhoun for me. There's something about Jared Calhoun. I'm not the biggest fan of his. Not to say that I wouldn't have supported him if he was the guy. And I think that's kind of the difference here, is a lot of people have come out really against Ross Hodge. And I think no matter who the hire was going to be, I was going to support it and, hope that they had success at WVU regardless. And I hope that that's what everyone does moving forward. And I hope Ross Hodge, in his introductory press conference coming up, less than 24 hours from him recording this, kind of gets a lot of those people, those naysayers on board. But what were your thoughts about how the coaching search went and how it ultimately played out landing on Ross Hodge?
I don't know. He definitely, admittedly, he was not at the top of my list. He wasn't even in my top 5, to be honest with you, until it all dwindled down and there was not less and less options, but more and more coaches that were on our list being taken by other schools.
Right.
Then he became one of the tops on that list. But originally it was like, Ben McCollum, Nico Medved, guys like that. I really liked Ben McCollum. I like the idea of that. I know a lot of people were against that as well, but I don't know. From everything that I've seen of the style of play that he coaches, I think it would have fit West Virginia very well. I don't know if his personality, however, would have meshed well, because it is, I don't know, not that he's a bad guy or anything, but I don't know, just different. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's a nice guy, and I don't know. I think
another Midwest guy,
Right. I don't know. Just, I liked things about Jared Calhoun. I liked that idea, but I don't know. The more I looked into it, the more I kind of agree with you. I think that it probably at this point in his coaching career, I don't know if it would be smart for us to hire him. But I don't know. I think regardless, I don't think Ross Hodge is a bad hire. I'm not going to be mad at WVU for hiring him. If they thought he was the best guy for the job, then let's see.
Yeah.
I like
Agreed.
Other than what I seen, last night out of North Texas, I think I like, the other things that I've looked up about him and all of what everybody that has coached against him has said about him. I don't even remember that many people or that many like high profile names mentioning things about Darren DeVries last year. So
that's a good point. A lot of high praise for
is a large
Ross
positive.
Hodge. Yeah.
So I don't
I
know, and
agree.
hopefully somebody coming from this level at this time, will take appreciation of WVU and find a home here if he is successful. And who knows, we might have the next legendary coach just hired at WVU and we don't even know it yet, and people are all against it. I'm more of a wait and see type of guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's the best mentality to take with these things because, at the end of the day, we all have our favorites. If you were a Calhoun guy, if you were, whatever camp you were in, we're all just kind of looking at numbers, trying to decide. Nobody's closer to it than Ren Baker, who's interviewing these guys face to face over Zoom, what have you. So I think at the end of the day, you got to trust Ren Baker, who has done a great job hiring coaches. I mean, he's had
Absolutely.
to do it enough times, and also, especially on the basketball side, has experience being a basketball coach himself throughout the past as well. So I think you got to trust him and his decision with this, regardless of what camp you were in, and let it play out and let the chips fall where they may. But I do think that, as you mentioned, they did fall in the NIT, and that's why Ross Hodge, made it to WVU today. Actually, the day that we're recording this episode, he's in Morgantown, which is good to see him get here in quick fashion. So I think for Mountaineer fans, it was a win-win no matter what happened in that game because, you wanted to see him win and go to the NIT championship, but if they lost, you knew he was coming right to Morgantown. So that's the positive side of that aspect, I think, was that. But as you mentioned, there were some things in there that maybe you didn't like the most. I think the one knock against Ross Hodge has been kind of his offense can be stagnant at times, as good as their defense has been, being one of the best in college basketball. But I think, you look at Grant McCasland at Texas Tech, the previous North Texas coach. When he came to Texas Tech, his offense picked up a little bit, and I think one reason for that is because you're going to have more resources now being in a power conference. NIL is next to non-existent at a place like North Texas, so I think, yes, his offense is stagnant at times, but I think it will improve now with better resources, being able to go out and get better offensive players, and if he can accompany that with his great defensive style that he's known for, it's going to be a recipe for success, I do believe. We'll see how it plays out, though, moving forward. He's going to have to rebuild a whole roster.
Our baseball team is some dogs.
That's just for reference. Steven's watching the Backyard Brawl baseball version as we're recording this episode here late Wednesday night here on April 2nd. So, getting excited over there, and I love to see it. Baseball team's performing well this year, man.
Oh my gosh, man! I thought the last couple of years have been really good brand of baseball from WVU, and I was, anxious to find out what it was going to be like in the post Randy Mazey era. Because if you followed the show, we've talked about it a bunch. Like Randy Mazey built WVU baseball,
right?
You know what I mean? Like he made them, relevant. You could say. But I tell you what, Steve Sabins has taken over and just ran with it. They've gotten off to one of the I think it is the hottest start in baseball history at WVU. It's like 20-3, 20-something, something like that, something in the realm of that. Yeah.
And I saw
they beat Ohio State last night.
They had, 39 runs in 2 games last week or something like that in the BYU series, something ridiculous.
Something like that, yeah. And then the weekend before that, you ought to have seen it. They went into 16 innings on night 1 on a Friday night against Arizona.
Wow.
And then came out, beat Arizona. I think it was like 11-3 the next day. Ended up losing the third game as well. But I'm telling you, they look good. They look good, and they're really streaky. So they get in these slumps sometimes where, they just can't really seem to get a hit. But once they get a couple of them, and they don't stop, they just keep them coming.
Hey, you love to see
they
it.
Just took a 6-1 lead. They got an infield single earlier.
And I'm always down for WVU beating Pitt in any sport. So, that's one thing. It's always a positive for sure. But
Absolutely.
Definitely a great start for Steve Sabins as his career there, taking over for Randy Mazey. Super efficient. And speaking of efficiency, Steven, there's no better way to stay efficient than our friends over at Magic Mind. Of course, keeping that mind right, much like Ren Baker had to, get his mind right, go out, make a good decision hiring a basketball coach, made a good decision in giving Mark Kellogg an extension on the women's side. And if you want to keep your mind right, be efficient like the WVU baseball team that we're talking about, Magic Mind is the way to go. You guys know I've always loved Magic Mind since I've tried the product. The mental performance shot, one of the best things on the market. You can add it to your daily routine. It'll help you out. You know, I love my coffee. I always have it on hand here. It's not a coffee replacement. It honestly helps the benefits of your coffee last you all day. It really is 100% safe, tested by doctors. Not a quick fix either. It's something that not only helps you daily, but as you use it, those benefits stack each day that you use it. Time-released caffeine, so you're not only helping you when you first take it, but it's helping you throughout the day. It gives you that energy without the stress and anxiety that you get from other traditional energy products. Validated by doctors, all natural ingredients, the highest grade matcha possible. And it also not only helps you, helps others. They donate 5 cents of each bottle sold to mental health charities that help the U.S. homeless communities. And they're also 100% carbon neutral. So no risk. They also offer you a 100% money-back guarantee if you don't like the product, but I guarantee you're going to love it. We've always loved it here at the Country Roads Webcast, and if you want to try some for yourself, we have a limited-time offer you can use now that will get you 48% off your first subscription or 20% off your one-time purchase if you just head over to magicmind.com/CRW20. Use the code CRW20 at checkout to get those discounts. Try Magic Mind. Stay efficient. Less stress, more energy. You're going to love it. It's magic for your mind. You're going to be a big fan of it. And speaking of being a big fan, Stephen, we are big fans of Ross Hodge making his way to WVU. And we've got the introductory press conference coming tomorrow morning. If you guys don't know, here is the info on that. Of course, like I said, we're releasing this late Wednesday night, so by the time you're hearing it, the press conference may have already happened. If it did, you know, we loved it. He did a great job. Really great stuff from Ross Hodge for sure. But if you're watching it ahead of time, you can tune in tomorrow at 9 a.m. on April 3rd. It'll be streamed on the WVU Sports X page and the Facebook page. Some info there as Ross Hodge has made his way to Morgantown. He has arrived just as Spring Showcase Week has arrived for WVU, and we'll talk some football here in a minute. But before we get there, let's do a quick update on the basketball side for the roster, because we know we're going to have to build a roster, going to have to build a coaching staff. So transfer portal-wise, we know Tucker DeVries going to Indiana, of course. That's a given. Others, Jonathan Powell just recently committed to UNC. KJ Tenner actually committed to Murray State the day that we're recording this. Monty Hansberry currently remains uncommitted, and Sincere Harris remains uncommitted as well. Got my fingers crossed that we can maybe get Sincere Harris out of the portal and get him to return to WVU. I think he would be a great fit for Ross Hodge's style here, that defensive style that he employs, as it will be, you know, a complete roster rebuild for West Virginia. The only scholarship players left on the roster, I think, are Abraham Oyudir, the center that redshirted last year, Harris Elizevich, who played sparingly, and then Offrey Neve, who, of course, redshirted last year as well, still on the roster. So going to have to add plenty of players, so hopefully soon we'll be adding some names to that transfer in list. And if you've been watching the live streams on the CRW YouTube channel, we've been trying to keep you up to date with the players that West Virginia has contacted, and there has been a ton. Ross Hodge and staff already doing work. And speaking of that coaching staff, Stephen, do you know who might be joining him at WVU, following him from North Texas, funny enough? It's probably a name you remember. You remember Phil Forte from Oklahoma State, the little shooter?
I think
battled us in the Press Virginia years. Oklahoma State, I think he was top 5 all-time leading scorers when he left there, and he made like 329 threes, I believe it was, during his career there. But since then, he's been coaching
the Mountaineers.
Yeah, he's, I believe, nothing official yet on that. We'll see. But from what I've heard, he's probably going to follow him. He was with him at North Texas, and he does a good job, cultivating their offense. He's been at, multiple different stops, and he's coached an all-conference player or a conference player of the year at each one, including Jason Edwards at North Texas 2 years ago, who then transferred to Vanderbilt and had a great season. So he's done a great job in his short basketball career, and also is a really good recruiter. So not a one-to-one replacement for Chester Frazier if Phil Forte comes, but he's a rising star in the coaching ranks, and of course has familiarity with the Big 12 Conference, playing at Oklahoma State throughout his career. So excited about him and hoping he joins the staff. But that's pretty much what we had on the basketball side of things. Any other thoughts you want to add on Ross Hodge or anything here on the basketball side before we switch gears, talk a little football, and highlight the upcoming spring showcase?
No, I've switched my complete focus on Mountaineer sports from, as soon as he touched down on campus this morning, other than recruiting news that I'm going to find out about basketball. I've been depressed with it enough for for the last few weeks. So I'm switching my focus to football and baseball since there's a lot to look forward to with that.
I understand that 100%. Last thing I want to add is I think that Mountaineer Nation, I think they're going to like Ross Hodge as they get to know him. He's someone that, as the coaching search unfolded and I was trying to cover it, his name kept popping up, and like you said, as more names dropped off the list, his continued to move up. So I would just try and do my due diligence and research him, and he was just a guy that the more I read about him, the more I really, really liked Ross Hodge a lot. I mean, you look at his time at JUCO, a record of 146-24 is incredible, and the thing there at the JUCO ranks is they're having to rebuild the roster a lot, so he has experience doing that. It's going to help you in the transfer portal era. But I think the thing that should sell Mountaineer Nation the most is just the style that he brings is a great fit for the Mountain State. I mean, he goes after, you go read articles about him, he goes after hardworking, blue-collar, gritty style players. I think he has a similar mentality to what we love about Rich Rod, bringing that hard edge on the football side. I think Ross Hodge is going to bring that to the basketball side and going to be a really good, strong defensive team, really good rebounding team, all things that I think we can rally around as a fan base. So excited to see where that goes, and we'll continue to follow the coaching staff as it builds. If Phil Forte does indeed come and that's officially announced, we'll cover it here on the CRW, as we will cover the roster as it builds there on the basketball side as well. So stay tuned to us here, subscribe to us on YouTube, and of course if you're listening on the audio side, however do that, and then vice versa. If you're on the YouTube side, be sure to check us out on any podcast platform, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, you name it, as we'll cover basketball news here throughout the offseason. But as Steven said, football is going to come first. We're in the midst of spring practice. It's getting close to wrapping up with the spring showcase. So that's kind of what we want to shift gears here and talk a little bit about now is some Mountaineer football, Steven. And I think since the last time we've had a chance to talk, one of the things, of course, is we've had a couple new names added to the coaching staff. I'll pull up our coaching staff tracker here, and we can talk a little bit about Larry Porter replacing Chad Scott as the running backs coach, and then most recently Logan Bradley replacing Blaine Stewart as the inside receivers coach. Logan Bradley coming over from Auburn, Larry Porter coming over from previously being at UNC, but he's a well-versed coach with 27 years of coaching experience, has coached multiple 1,000-yard rushers throughout his career. I think he's going to do a good job. And then Logan Bradley, adding him from Auburn, I think was a big get because, as Rich Rod said, they wanted to fill that void on the staff with a dynamic recruiter, and I certainly think Logan Bradley is just that. Really has great experience as a recruiter, helped recruit Caden Salter to Liberty when he was there, multiple other guys that he's recruited, so excited about those additions. But any thoughts on the, what I believe to be one of the best coaching staffs in WVU football history, now rounding out and having the complete staff now with the additions of Larry Porter and Logan Bradley?
Well, I was getting ready to say, this has got to be what an all-star lineup of coaches. Think about it. To us, we obviously know names like Ryan Nealon, Pat White, Noah Devine, Rich Rodriguez. We know all the main ones. If you've been around Mountaineer football and followed it closely for a while, you know who Rhett and them are, and Raquel, and all the other ones. But besides that, is it not is it just me, or pretty much every name on that list has come from a big-time, it's not lower-level schools. They're, Oklahoma, Auburn, you know what I mean?
They spared no expense, for sure.
No doubt. You can really see where the money for his assistant coaches has gotten, Coach Rod the things that he wanted. You listen to his press conferences. I don't know how excited you get. He does not sugarcoat anything.
Yeah,
he lets you know exactly how it is.
It is.
Yeah,
for sure. Which I think that speaks to one of the main things that we were excited about when Rich Rod was the guy was the money that was going to come along with that. And I think you're seeing that in the staff. You're going to see that. You've already seen it in some of the transfers we've added. You're going to see it even more after the spring when we go out and add some more there as we kind of scroll through the entire staff there, which is super impressive. Highest paid assistant ever, and Zach Alley on the defensive side. Great coaches across the board as they're kind of going with the NFL model, a large staff. Larry Porter and Logan Bradley, just the latest additions to that great coaching staff. But I'm glad you mentioned Rich Rod's press conferences because I think that that's been something that's like you said, he doesn't sugarcoat anything, but at the same time, it's kind of been delightful to cover those throughout the spring because you know just exactly what he's talking about. You know where the weaknesses are, you know where the strengths are, but also he really gives you some really great quotes pretty much in each press conference. And I just wanted to mention this one because I don't know if you've heard this one yet or not, Stephen, but each press conference of his I've tried to bring one quote, and one of my favorites, if not my very favorite from the spring, was this one. But I think just kind of hammers home the reason that we here on the CRW are so excited about Rich Rod being back and so excited about the style, the hard edge mentality that he's going to employ here at WVU. But this quote right here, man, says it all. He says, "I don't want one person to buy a season ticket to a Mountaineer game and have to sit in those stands and watch somebody be soft or somebody be lazy. Not one fan, because they can see that if you're doing it. If you're soft and you're lazy, you can't play for the Mountaineers." I mean, right there, that just drives home everything that I love about Rich Rod and what he's bringing to the table.
Yeah, and they asked him, I think it was in yesterday's press conference, like, do you have guys, it wasn't so directly asked like this, but it was insinuated. Do you have guys that you're looking at in the portal that you or positions that you're looking at specifically in the portal that you're wanting to go after? And he was like, yes, we do. We've got a board ready to go. And that's simultaneously, by the way, talking about how they need to cut their roster limit by, I forget how many players we need to get off the roster to be down to 105.
Several.
But I absolutely agree with him on that level. I think it should have been what he said, grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Where you go down to 120, then 115, 110, 105 gradually. That way you don't really have, because I didn't even think about this at first, but you're really cutting out your walk-ons. I mean, you're leaving that off the table for a lot of people. And I don't know. I just think that's an absolute travesty, because that's one of the most beautiful things about college football to me, is that you can go from a walk-on to earning a scholarship and then, working your way up and doing those. There's been multiple stories of a lot of players Rich Rodriguez did that. Baker Mayfield won a, freaking Heisman Trophy after becoming a walk-on. So I don't know. Those are just a few examples, but
yeah, I 100% agree. I think that 105 player roster limit, it's crazy just because of how, it's going into effect now. So you're really going to have to start managing your roster in April for, stuff that you're going to need in August. So he's mentioned multiple times lamenting that and having to, cut that down after spring football but one other aspect that goes into that I think is interesting is something that they've talked about is trying to get the best 105 players possible. And even if that means guys that can play both ways, defensive ends that can play tight end, stuff like that. He thinks that's going to become more of the norm in the future because of these 105 player roster limits, which funny enough, I actually earlier today went through and counted to see where we stood because I knew we were over, but I wanted to know how much. Right now for spring, there's 108 players already on the roster. So we're already over, but there's another 14 signees that'll be joining over the summer. So that puts us at 122 already. And of course they're going to want to add, probably 10 to 12 more players via the portal. So you're looking at around 20-some players probably at least that you're going to have to cut from this roster, if not more, to make room for some of those transfers. So after the spring, that's the one thing we got to let people know is don't think the sky's falling when you see a bunch of people hitting the portal, because a lot of those are going to be coach's decision.
I was going to say, because I wouldn't even say that they're cut. A lot of these guys might, leave on their own. Hopefully, we just pray and hope that it's nobody that makes a difference, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the bad part, is you might have to cut some good players.
You really might have to. I don't know.
But the way that they're going about
the
it
Wild
is
West
good.
anymore of
I
don't know. I just really truly wish that there would be. I continue to say I don't understand how there's not contracts involved in all of this.
Yeah,
for players.
It's got to be heading that way soon. It
has to. It absolutely has to.
Too crazy right now. But I do like the way that
it's not the players' fault. You don't blame the players. No. You know what I mean?
They deserve to be paid.
The system that they're you're right, but and it's not always necessarily like going after more money. Like a lot of people, and I get it. A lot of times it's hard to swallow because it looks like disloyalty because of the situation that they're put into. But like they're putting these time constraints, and then they got to get their name in the portal to
Yeah.
Maybe there's a better system out there that they could play in, that they could showcase their skills better. Or I'm not just talking about WVU either. I'm just talking about the portal in general and the way it's timed. I mean, I don't know. That's what's ruined the game. I would argue that it's not necessarily the transfer portal itself, but the how it was timed and how it's unregulated, essentially, and paired with now players get NIL money. So I don't know. Just them two things happening together without any kind of constraints about it at all. That's what
It's a
makes
mess.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think I agree with Coach Rod, and I think some other coaches have said there doesn't really need to be 2 transfer portal windows. Make it 1 transfer window so you know what you're working with roster-wise, and you don't have to do it again after spring football. Whenever you want to have the window, make it just 1. The 2 portal windows makes it extremely difficult because we've went through one already. Now we're about to go through another one once spring ends. But I will say, despite the fact that he is lamenting having to make these roster cuts, and I understand that because there's a lot of players that he would like to keep and have grandfathered in, as we talked about there. I think the way that this staff's going about it is a really good way to do it, because he talked about how they're going to have video cut-ups of each individual player of everything they did in the spring, from individual workouts to 7-on-7 drills to their performance in scrimmages. And the reason they moved the spring showcase up to April 5th, which we'll give you guys some details on what to expect from the spring showcase here in a bit, was because the portal opens about a week after that. So that allows them to have a week of meetings with these players. And in the meetings, they can go over this video footage and say, hey, here's what you did. Here's why you earned a spot on the roster. Here's why we'd like for you to, seek an opportunity elsewhere and have to hop into the portal once it opens. And I think that the going about it that way really kind of takes the emotion out of the decision and makes it strictly performance-based with video evidence to say, hey, you didn't do this that we asked you to do, and because of that, we're going to have to go a different direction. I think that that's, one of the best ways you could potentially go about this, and, not really have a player thinking it's political decision or, playing favorites or anything, because literally you got the proof in the pudding. Here's a video. We're going to show you why we're making the decision that we're making,
Right. And if, you don't bring the right style of play or the right mentality, then, I totally get it. I don't know. I don't know. I think it kind of sucks that, I don't know, I don't think it sucks. I think it's awesome, really. But the way that he has had to be so hard on him through these press conferences. I mean, like you came out the other day and he's like, "We didn't get better today." That's the first words out of his mouth through the whole press conference. We didn't get better today.
Yeah, tell it like it is, and I think some of it's to try and motivate the guys, but also I think
so too. Yeah,
it's a difference in mentality too, because the style of player that he wants on his team and the style of player that the previous staff wanted on their team, I think that there is a vast difference there as well. And I think that that's maybe playing into some of the complaints about, softness and laziness and not having that hard edge mentality, because things that flew in the past are not going to fly now under this staff, and it's just a complete clash of styles. And obviously when you have that, some guys are going to get on board and say, oh, this is awesome, and then you have other guys that are going to say, hey, man, this isn't what I signed up for. And I think that goes into what you said. Some of these will be coaches' decisions, but some of these will be guys saying, I don't really want to play, this style. And that's fine too. We want the guys that want to be here and want to fit this system.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, there may be, some money, being tossed at some players who hopefully don't leave, but that's the name of the game. So
yeah, that's part of it as well, for sure. But I liked Rich Rod's stance on that as well. When he was talking about recruiting, he said, of course, the money plays a part in it, but if a guy is making a decision solely based on money, he said that's not a guy that we really want to go after anyway in recruiting, because then if someone does offer him more money along the way throughout his career here, he's going to up and leave anyway. So he doesn't mind, money being tied into it, but he doesn't want guys that are only solely concerned about that as their number one, top priority, which makes sense. It really does, I think. And of course, like you said, that's the name of the game now, and you're going to have those guys. But I think that he's really kind of focused on getting the right type of player here with the right type of mentality, not only when we're talking about playing hard on the field, but things like that as well, which I think will help this program grow in the future, and he'll be able to keep guys more because he's kind of weeding it out in the recruiting process, so to speak, there moving forward. But excited to get a look at these guys on Saturday in the spring showcase, Stephen. I don't know about you, man, but I can't wait to get up there.
Oh, I'm excited about Saturday in general, man. Lots to be excited about, you know. You get to see those guys play. You get to, I think we're going to try to go over to the baseball game.
Yeah, right afterwards.
Hopefully get to meet a lot of you guys. If y'all are going to make your way up there, we're going to try to have a section that we're going to aim for. That, you know, that way people can't remember who it was that suggested that a while back, but
I think it was one of the channel members suggested it a while back, and I think it's a good plan. I'm trying to get a little meetup going or
obviously
something.
We
Maybe
don't
we'll
own
put out
that
on
section.
social media.
We're just going to be there.
We'll put out on social media where we plan to be or something, so people can head over, chat to us, say hi if they want to meet us, and hopefully, I know we talked about maybe doing it for the Pitt game or something. Or at least 1 or 2 home games throughout the season. There'll be opportunities. Me and Steven will be there for all of them. So, that's what we'll be looking towards. But as far as Saturday is concerned, some info there. They did release a good bit of it here on the WVU Sports site. I'll share it here on the video side for you guys watching on YouTube, which if you're someone that does watch on YouTube, be sure hit the thumbs up button, help us with the algorithm, subscribe here if you haven't already. You guys that are listening on the audio side, we appreciate that as well. You can leave us a rating to help us out there on that side of things. And of course, shout out to our friends over at WV Sports Now for hosting our episodes on their website as well. But interesting here, it is at 1 p.m. Not going to be the traditional, game that they've played in the past where they split up between gold team and blue team. Rich Rod said, it'll be some individual drills, some 7-on-7, and they will do a brief scrimmage at times. But because of that, the only opportunity you got to watch this game is to head up to Morgantown. Not going to be televised this year. It's been on ESPN Plus in years past and not going to be on the radio. But I think if you do come, they do have a lot of fun stuff planned out. Got the Almost Heaven Village open. There'll be a concert, I think, at 11. Gates are going to open at 12. And, of course, the spring game, or spring showcase, rather, commences at 1 p.m. And, of course, after the game, something that I'm excited about, and, Stephen, I'm sure you are too, because we raved about this last year, is fans that are there will get the opportunity to go onto the field for 30 minutes after the game, which is super exciting. But tickets are free. You just got to claim one ahead of time, so no reason for us not to pack that thing out on Saturday.
Absolutely. No excuse. I keep looking at the weather. I know that it's kind of to be determined because it keeps changing every single day and every single hour that I look at it. But there's been rain on there. Then there's been rain in the beginning part of the day, but not in the evening whenever the game takes place. And then there's been no rain on there when I looked on there earlier today. And then I just looked before the show, and there's rain back on the forecast. So hopefully it holds dry, but even if it does hold off, it's going to be a hot day. So prepare for that if you are going to make your way to Morgantown for it.
Yeah, bring you a poncho and probably wear you some shorts if you do choose so, because it'll be humid either way, I'd say. But as far as gates that'll be open, northwest, southeast, and southwest, stadium seating will be the lower deck of the east, west, and south sides. Upper deck will not be open, kind of the traditional way that they do it for the spring showcase. Hopefully we get that thing packed out. Hall of Traditions open 2 hours prior to kickoff and up until 30 minutes prior there. So it'll be open from 11 to 12:30 basically prior to the game. Concession stands open at noon. Obviously cashless inside the stadium. Keep that in mind. And of course, then as we said, after the game, the fun stuff here is, if I can find it here, following the conclusion of the game, all fans in attendance welcomed on to Mountaineer Field for 30 minutes for photos and other activities, meet and greet with the players, get you a picture, get you an autograph, and just the opportunity to go out there on Mountaineer Field is pretty awesome in and of itself. So looking forward to that in addition to the game. Of course, a lot of newcomers will be playing. Put out a video on the CRW YouTube channel earlier. Be sure to check that out if you haven't already, where I kind of highlighted everyone's jersey numbers of the 108 players on the roster so that you know who you'll be watching, because it's so many newcomers. You see some guy make a play, you might say, who's number 4 out there? You can look, screenshot that video, and you can say, oh, that's Cam Vaughn out there making plays at receiver, and so on and so forth. So it'll be fun, man. It's excited. New era, Rich Rod 2.0 era, kicking off with the spring showcase, and can't wait for Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Stoked. Absolutely stoked.
As am I. The last thing I wanted to highlight here on the football side, and pretty much was just a little bit of recruiting talk here to wrap it up, as West Virginia did receive another commitment today, bringing it to 3 commits for the 2026 class. They've added a running back in the 2026 class. We know they have one committed down the line in the 2027 class, but next year's class has added a commitment from a running back out of Texas in Jet Walker, 6'2", 215-pounder. Rivals has him as a 3-star recruit. Was recruited by multiple schools. Texas, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech showed interest, had offers from Marshall, Houston, Charlotte, Bowling Green, and of course deciding to commit to the Mountaineers there as they add a recruit at the running back position in this 2026 class. So let's pull up our recruiting tracker to take a look here at where we stand for the upcoming class. Already 3 commitments in tow for that 2026 class. Sam Hamilton, a tight end out of Ohio, the speedy receiver Jafar G. Noel out of Florida, and running back Jet Walker now joins them. There's the trio West Virginia has committed thus far in 2026. Getting a jump start on the recruiting class. Stephen, any thoughts here on the addition of Jet Walker or the 2026 class as it's shaping up? Rich Rod trying to formulate his first class back at WVU here.
You can definitely tell that Rich Rod he's focusing on offense, sustaining offense, I guess you could say. Defensive players you can get a good amount, I feel like, out of the portal. So, and not to say that you're not going to get some of them that are recruited this way, but I don't know. Definitely seems to me through everything that we've seen that he is definitely still the same offensive-minded coach that we knew before.
Yeah, same offense that we know and love. That's one thing that's usually prolific under Rich Rod, and we're expecting to be so again. Can't wait to see that up-tempo style, that exciting offense to watch yet again. But, in regards to Jet Walker, I do wonder, now that we've heard him talk about focusing on guys that could potentially play both ways in the future, especially when they're evaluating recruits. He even talked about, specifically 2026 recruits, kind of looking at that. When I look at the size of Jet Walker, 6'2", 215 is pretty big for a running back. Is that a guy that they're looking at to maybe play linebacker and running back both some? I think that, there's potential there. We'll see how that plays out, but it's something to keep an eye on moving forward because it's something Rich Rod has addressed as they try and get the 105 best players on the roster each year. That's going to be something that they take a look at as guys that can maybe play on both sides of the football. So it's interesting, but excited to see how this class shapes up.
That's what football used to be, is just Iron Man football, man. You play both ways. Everybody did.
Yeah, that's right.
And now it's just reverting back into that.
Yeah, especially, these new roster limits kind of forcing it. But
I was going to say, you can't make the argument.
The more they stay the same.
You can't make the argument to me that it's about player safety anymore. They don't give a shit about player safety. I mean, they put more strain on these kids, as the years go by than anything else, and that results in more severe injuries at that. And I just think this is going to probably lead to more of that because the more strain, like Travis Hunter is a freak of nature and he is awesome on both sides of the football. But not everybody's Travis Hunter. You know what I mean? And hopefully
that's a once in a lifetime guy.
The way athletes have evolved, maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. But I don't know. The more strain you put on a kid's body, especially in a sport like football, as high contact as it is, and as violent as it can be, I just don't see how that's not going to result in more severe injuries than we've already seen.
Yeah, that's a good point to take into account as well. And probably something that the NCAA wasn't taken into account when they decided, to go with this 105-player roster limit, which is expected to be approved with that House settlement here in the near future. But it's definitely, something that coaches are going to utilize. They're going to have to, as Rich Rod's talked about. You want to get your best 105, and if, part of your best 105's an athlete that can play both ways, so be it, because he wants to have the best 105 possible, which, you can't blame him for that. Blame the NCAA, if anything, right? They don't make too many smart decisions.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the time is just ticking on. You got more and more talking heads in the main sports media now talking about how the NCAA needs to be abolished, or there at least needs to be a clear head or clear commissioner at the head of it. But the organization itself, it's obviously not a structured organization. They don't make any logical decisions half the time. Almost none of the decisions they've made in the past decade are in the best in the best interest of the student athlete. And I'm not including NIL in that because that wasn't their decision. A student athlete had to take them to court to force them into that. And now they want to take credit for, oh yeah, we decided to pay athletes because it's fair. No, you didn't. You fought against it for however long and punished anybody that did accept money. So
it took several lawsuits to get you guys there. Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. If you don't know, anybody watching the show, if you don't know who led that lawsuit, he used to play here. He was a fullback named Sean Austin, and he was the one that took the NCAA to court and fought for the right for NIL. So everything leads back to West Virginia.
Always a West Virginia connection, for sure. But that's where we are with the recruiting update, a little bit of a transfer portal update on the basketball side. Have news coming on both of those for sure. There'll be transfer portal updates coming for both sports from us here on the Country Roads webcast, as both sports are going to be trying to build a roster kind of simultaneously here as we move through the summer. Spring wrapping up, that portal opening on the football side, obviously portal open on the basketball side. Coach Ross Hodge going to continue to build his roster there for sure. But we've covered a good bit here, I think, talking about Coach Ross Hodge joining. He's arrived. Spring Showcase Week has arrived as well. So talking a little bit of both sports there, which we're excited. A new era for both of those sports for sure. But as always is the case, our channel members get the opportunity to watch us record these episodes as we do so. They're in here with us live. One of the perks to being a channel member here of the Country Roads webcast YouTube channel. And if you want to become one of those, get that extra content, the behind-the-scenes access like that, you can hit the join button down in the video description or over on the YouTube channel homepage. Helps keep this mic recording, that camera rolling, and we always give back with bonus content. Not only that behind-the-scenes stuff there, but of course throughout the season you'll get player grades, snap counts, injury reports, depth chart updates, film reviews, game rewatch commentaries, all kinds of fun stuff there if you're someone that can't get enough Mountaineer sports. We definitely recommend it. But always we like to wrap up these episodes with some questions from our channel members here. So let's hit some of these. Big Dan T was nice enough here to send us a super chat, and eat shit pit. That's pretty sweet and simple, and always appreciate you, Big Dan T, but we'll take any opportunity to say that we can.
Yeah, no doubt. Especially right now, up 9-1 on this baseball game right now.
As the baseball game is progressing and we're whipping some butt there, some Panther butt, that's even better time to say it for sure. Nate Scott said, heard Rich Rod say on Three Guys the other day, bringing the freeze play back to WVU classic form from his old days. Yeah, that was always something that I loved when the defense jumped off sides, the offensive line would freeze there and then still run the play, so they would know for sure it's on the defense because our O-line never moved. And the one that comes to mind for me is the Gator Bowl against Georgia Tech when they scored a touchdown on that play with Pat White scrambling out and throwing a touchdown after that freeze play. So, hey, now that it's back, Steven, maybe that means we can hope for the inflatable helmet and glossy helmets to come back too. May as well add them to the list.
They keep getting crazier and crazier with the pyrotechnics, so I don't know about the inflatable helmet, but you can make a pretty darn cool helmet, I think, with what they've got nowadays. So at least I'd hope to see that I hope to see them bring that back. I hope to see them bring the warm-up lines.
Oh yeah.
For what was that song they used to do that to?
Right Now.
Oh yeah.
I think it's called Right Now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Hopefully they bring that back. My favorite memory out of that was Dan Moses fell straight on his face. He froze so long. He just like
oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, it just like fell forward. Yeah, that was a good one too. That's
then looked up to see if we got the call. Yeah,
it's like, oh, yep. All right, we got the flag. I'm good. I can get up. Channel member Big Dan T with another great question. Am I tripping, or should WVU baseball be ranked? How are they not? How are they not with that record?
Same. They argue that West Virginia has not played anybody, but in comparison to some of the teams that have, almost twice as many losses as WVU has at this point, I don't know, same old story, different year for WVU athletics versus mainstream media voters.
Yeah, WVU sports is basically like Rodney Dangerfield. We get no respect.
They finally did get. They're ranked in a few polls that aren't really recognized by a lot of it. Like they're not. This one isn't recognized by ESPN, but they're ranked in the USA Today poll 25. And there's a couple of other ones they're at like 23 and 21 or something like that. But if they can, the argument is that they haven't played anybody. So if they can continue to win games in the Big 12 conference, and then they beat Ohio State, they're on track to beat Pitt tonight. Beat Marshall pretty handily. Have another chance to play Marshall and beat them and do the same thing. I've got another chance to play Pitt up there, and then the rest of your Big 12 slate. So they got opportunities. I think if they continue playing the way that they are and they can stay healthy, they got a good chance of hosting another super regional again this year.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time. They keep winning. I mean, they can't keep us out of them polls forever, for sure.
That's right. That's right.
And then lastly here from channel member Nate Scott, when do you think we get the first WVU basketball recruit? Good question, Nathan. I think, high school-wise, we'll see if they're able to recoup on that side and add any, as we lost, the 3 that we had after Darren DeVries' departure. But I think transfer portal-wise, you're going to see them roll in, in the coming days. Probably less than a week. I would say, 48 to 72 hours, you could start seeing that. I saw, I think I reported on a previous stream, Jamichael Stillwell from Milwaukee, one of the best rebounders in the country. I think he was 7th in the nation in rebounds. We made his top 6. We've, contacted close to 20 guys in the portal. So hopefully we start getting some commits from some of those now that Ross Hodge is officially here. And I'm keeping my eyes on Brennan Lorient from North Texas. I'd love to see him come over. If he hits the portal, we may have a chance there. But I think short order there as far as first basketball recruit. Any other thoughts there, Stephen?
No, I completely agree with you. I don't think it'll be very long at all. The game moves fast. They got to get their team set because they're going to be doing summer workouts, things of that nature. And then, I don't know, pretty quick turnaround to be ready to go in November.
True.
I wouldn't say it'd be very long at all.
Channel member H Bar.
I was going to
got one more in here.
I was going to ask you something before we move on to the next one. Do you know? I know we had two of the 3 or all 3 McDonald's All-Americans decommit.
Yeah, the McDonald All-American nominees are all off the board now. It was 2, McLean and Odie, but then Braden Hawthorne did as well, decommitted also. So we have no high school recruits coming in as of now for this team.
Have they committed elsewhere? Or are they?
No, not yet. I did see Braden Hawthorne has, his main relationship was with Chester Frazier. Obviously, he's from Huntington Prep, so has some West Virginia ties. But funny enough, soon as, I think it was yesterday or day before, Chester Frazier was announced at Virginia Tech, same day, Braden Hawthorne was there on a visit. So that's one to keep an eye on now, unfortunately. It seems like they could be in play for him. Love to get him back in the fold. I think he would be the only one we had a shot at maybe retaining would be Braden Hawthorne, but with Chester Frazier out, I don't know if we'll get that either. So high school-wise, I don't know if we'll get any freshmen incoming here for Ross Hodge's first year. We'll see what happens. Could prove me wrong. I know he had at least 1 or 2 high school commits there in North Texas. Maybe he'll try and lure them to come to WVU now, but for now, no high school commits currently for the basketball team, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Another casualty of Darren DeVries, but it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Lastly, channel member H Bar Farkle here with another good question to wrap us up here in our final segment. What is your guess as to what our record will be in football in 2025? I think a lot of factors were still yet to come into the picture to see, how that's going to play out, what the final roster is going to look like. Could be a lot of changes from, now until August. And, of course, once August rolls around, we'll kick off what will be Season 8 of this podcast with our season prediction roundtable with our official predictions. I think when I first looked at the schedule, I seen anywhere from 6 to 8 wins. I think that this has a good chance to be a bowl-eligible team, a winning football team. That's what I'll say for now. But I think, I got to see what the roster looks like before make any official predictions or, have a good feel for it one way or the other. What about you, Stephen? Any early guesses?
No, I think with how everything has, there's a lot that can change from now and then. So I don't know. My prediction right now wouldn't be nearly. It'd just be a toss-up, so I have no idea, to be honest, right now. I will say that we do, did you mention the season prediction roundtable?
Yeah, season prediction roundtable coming up in August to kick off Season 8.
We have that. We've got that's our biggest show of the year, and that's usually when we have a lot of fun and usually when we're the most wrong and most optimistic about things.
A lot of times we throw the gold and blue glasses on,
I mean, whatever they do, it's usually the opposite of what I guess I've learned. I said, what, 6-6 2 years ago? They came out, rattled off 9 wins. Then last year I was thinking we was going to get to 10 wins. And
Well, everybody was way
short.
optimistic last year, and we all know how that played out. But, that's one of the good things about this staff is we don't have to worry about being sold a bill of false goods. They're going to tell us whatever, so.
That's the thing. I guess that's why it was so frustrating, dealing with what we dealt with during the season after being, I don't know, we joke and say that he was lying to us in the press conferences talking about Neil Brown. But I mean, I think most of all it was, you don't want to give too much away and you don't want to be too hard on your team. That nice guy football that we talk about. That's probably wise because we got so used to listening to Don Nealon and Rich Rodriguez tell us the daggone truth every time they got on the mic. And they wasn't going to tell you we got a good football team if we don't have a good football team. Yeah. And it's just kind the way it is.
Polar opposite before, yeah, for sure.
Demand excellence. I mean, I can't help but love it. Love that.
Yep.
It shows fire. It shows passion. To me, that's what it's kind of the thing that everybody brought up about Huggins the whole time he was here. It was like he never sounds happy. He always sounds like he's hard on the players. But every player that he ever coached loved him. You know what I mean? Like the guys absolutely loved him. And I think that's wise because you demand excellence as a coach and you don't put up with that, little silly bullshit. And these guys learn from that and they go on to grow and they be better men in every aspect of their life, not just being an athlete. And so I think that's what it all boils down to. You know what I mean? Like it seems like it's too rough to a lot of people, but I mean, that's football, man. That's all the best coaches are going to be like that.
Yep. You got to demand perfection, and even if you get perfection, you got to tell them it wasn't perfect enough.
I mean, pretty much. I mean, like you really want to, like especially whenever they're doing well, you want to ride their coattails and see, get the best out of them. But absolutely, whenever they're doing some silly stuff, that's like why I'm in favor of the whole. I don't know. I'd like to think of myself as an open-minded person, but I absolutely agree with him banning the whole dancing on TikTok thing. I mean, like, what kind of an image does that set for our program? You know what I mean? Like, if you're there to play football and be serious and win games, and why you in your tights in the locker room, for God's sakes, dancing on TikTok? It wasn't even at your own house. Like, I don't know. There's just a lot of factors involved that I love about the way that Rich Rod handled it, and you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that the one thing that I love that's been, brought up in pretty much every press conference, whether it's been Rich Rod or one of the assistants, of course, the hard edge mentality has been one thing, but the other thing that everyone's brought up is winning. Everything is about winning. Everything's with a focus on winning. And, it's just something we hadn't heard for a while. And I love that that's kind of the main goal, no matter what it takes. We're going to have this hard edge mentality. We're not going to be soft and lazy. We're going to play hard, and we're going to win games. What else can you ask for as a fan? That's what you want.
That's
that's
all we've been
wanting.
Win.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that I noticed it during the Neil Brown era. I damn sure noticed it during the Dana Holgorsen era. I mean, it was just like teams were lethargic at times. Like you didn't see that. I mean, and I remember thinking to myself a lot of times, like I miss when we sprinted to the other side of the field after a quarter was over because we were so excited to play the rest of the game. You know what I mean? Like when we lost games in the Rich Rod era, it wasn't ever because of effort. That's what I think made a lot of those losses really, really hard.
100% agree.
What he says is absolutely true.
Yeah. I think it's like that quote that we talked about earlier that Rich Rod made about, fans being able to recognize if guys aren't playing hard. And I think that we as fans can, that quote hit us hard because we've seen it. We've seen it over the past 2 coaching staffs at times, guys not playing hard. So we absolutely know what it looks like and can see it. And so we're excited to, finally kind of see the opposite of that. And this isn't to be a bash on the previous coaching staffs, but it's just what we're excited about with Rich Rod and his staff, here more so. And I think that that's something we're going to be able to see with our own eyes every Saturday in the fall, which can't wait. And we get our first opportunity this Saturday for the spring showcase. Can't wait to get up there and check that out. Hope you guys are heading up as well to check out this team. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of good activities for the fans, and Also excited that Coach Ross Hodge is on board, and he's bringing a kind of hard-edge mentality to the basketball side of things as well, and excited to see how that shapes up, and hope we've covered a good bit of it here for both sports. A bunch of news to go over, and try to hit all of it as much as possible, and we'll be back, after the spring showcase. Hopefully get Brad on here with us as well and bring you guys another episode. But, Steven, anything that we didn't highlight or anything that we didn't touch on you want to add here at the tail end?
I mean, we got baseball, football, basketball on this podcast. You want to talk about the rifle team real quick?
I mean, they are winning natties, so I mean,
we got got the rifle team in national championship. We got track and field national championship. We got
McCabe.
Caleb McCabe. Wrestling team did pretty well this year in the Big 12 tournament, NCAA tournament. From what I understood, I admittedly did not watch the wrestling tournament. Not going to sit here and act like I did, but I did hear good things about how it performed. I don't know, any other sports you could think of?
Hey, man, we're
just trying to get it all in.
WV athletics on the rise, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
For sure.
Yeah, but anyway, WV's in a good place. I know basketball's been a dark place in the past few weeks, but I think overall WV's heading in a positive direction.
That's right. The night's always darkest before the dawn. Brighter days on the horizon for sure. New era for both sports, and it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about it and cover it, and we'll be doing it all along here on the CRW podcast as both those sports head towards that new era, the Ross Hodge era for the basketball team and the Rich Rod 2.0 era for the football team. Enjoyed here covering it for episode 219 with you guys here as Spring Showcase Week has arrived. And so has Ross Hodge. Super excited about it, guys. Appreciate y'all tuning in, whether you listened on the audio side, on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or iHeartRadio, you name it. If you listen there, leave us a rating. That helps us a ton. Share us around with other Mountaineer fans. And you guys that watch on the video side here on YouTube, appreciate you as well. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Help us with that algorithm. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on news for both WVU basketball and WVU football. And, of course, shout out to our friends over at WVSportsNow.com for hosting our episodes on their website as well. And lastly, one more time, got to remind you guys about Magic Mind. Head over there, get that discount, magicmind.com/CRW20, and use the code CRW20 to get those discounts on your first subscription or your one-time purchase. You're going to love that mental performance shot, I promise you. But that'll pretty much wrap us up here for episode 219. We'll be back to chat with you guys in the near future about some more Mountaineer sports. From my co-host Steven, as always, I'm Jorden Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.
If you really want to know, then come on, let's go. Take a stroll down those